Hello and welcome to the episode podcast. We are back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today I wanted to talk about the future of the pay-per-view model. So this is mainly going to relate to TNA, and we're going to be mostly talking about what's going to work with TNA and whatnot. But this can be applied to any wrestling promotion. Look, WWE has already gone through this, or basically gone through this. A lot of traditional pay-per-view model sort of things have gone or are going through this process now, where yes, they're still available as a pay-per-view, but they're more about the premium live event as itself is just like a streaming event. As far as you have Hulu, you have Netflix, you have whatever it is, you pay one fee for the month or for the year or for 6 months or for whatever period it is, and the pay-per-views of whatever company, WWE, TNA, UFC, whatever it is. I don't know what else operates on pay-per-view nothing will operate on pay-per-view anymore, but traditional things that would operate on pay-per-view, music, wrestling, UFC, MMA, whatever, that sort of thing, they will have to, unless they're really indie or whatever, they are going to have to look at, okay, besides maybe the real wrestling indies, that I think they can still get by saying, okay, well, we're on Fight TV, that is a streaming service, what have you, for pay-per-views, and if you pay X amount for the year or whatever it is for 6 months, whatever it is, I don't know, I haven't I looked at it once, but I don't remember the details of it or whatever. It doesn't really matter anyway. You pay a certain fee for a certain amount of time, you get all these shows, and you're able to watch them. So that's the same thing. And that's why when you have a streaming partner, a proper streaming partner, they are effectively paying you out for a year's worth of content, and it is a deal of saying, this is what the 10 million's about, 10 million as far as a TV network, or as 10 mil as same thing. That means if you're putting it together, it's 20 million. 10 million for the TV, 10 million for the streaming. So that kind of, well, maybe it's 5 million for one and 5 million for the other. I don't know, but one way or and eventually they need to be way more than that. But for a start, to say, yes, you're going to pay us $10 million for the year, for all of our shows and whatever else it is, and you can, stream them, whatever, here, there, and everywhere, and they'll be available, to be seen on cable as well, or whatever, or on Netflix, or whatever. We don't know what they're going to be on. They're obviously not going to be on Netflix, but just as an example, they could be on Hulu, whatever it is. They could be on Peacock, whatever it is. Still, so that will be what they are getting. That will mean that the average fan, or the average person that signs up to Hulu or whatever, again, streaming service they're on, they're technically paying whatever it is, however many dollars and however many cents out of their subscription to help pay for TNA. And that will help them in the long run. That will give them not only being on a huge internationally available streaming platform, that will give them ad revenue on that platform, because a lot of these platforms now especially do have in-house advertising. They don't really advertise I don't know, Snickers or whatever, KFC or whatever. Maybe they do now, I don't know. Some of them might do, I don't know. But again, mostly it's for the shows or for the programs that are seen, watched, whatever. And there's a lot of I don't know, movies, TV shows, and whatever else that, would perhaps appeal to some wrestling fans or some people, and again, like wrestling might appeal to some people, again, that are on those streaming services. Again, you will get that featured in the same way as what, you get WWE featured now, so that is the idea, and that is where, this live model of a special event. Again, people refuse to say that the monthly pay-per-views are proper pay-per-views. They are proper pay-per-views. They're just not the quote-unquote big four pay-per-views. So that's what they've been trying to do. They've tried to be you could call them live specials or whatever else, monthly specials or whatever else they are. But again, they're sold as pay-per-views. So, or whatever, premium live events or whatever. No matter how you sell them, or no matter how you look at them, you've got to look at them as saying this is something that you will be able to watch every month, whatever, or roughly thereabouts, and then here comes the big four, Genesis. I don't know whether they're going to keep Genesis, but Genesis, Slammiversary, Rebellion, and Bound for Glory. Those like big four, maybe big five. Like maybe they'll add another one that's really big. Like maybe something else will become like the Hard to Kill, or whatever, and they'll actually make it, every three or so months or whatever it is, a big show. So. But that's where we're at. They've got to, and this is something they've got to do because, they can't be lagging behind, and they sort of are already, but, they've got to follow along with that trend. So it's not that the pay-per-view model is completely dead. I think we've talked about this a little bit here and there and touched on it, but it is the way of the past type thing. And the real future is, again, even if you're on TikTok, not TikTok, but certainly they're on TikTok, but you've got to have it on Twitch. You've got to have it on YouTube. You've got to have it somewhere, somehow, some way, so that, whoever stumbles upon it or whatever, or wants to watch it, turns on Netflix, turns on whatever, turns on Hulu, whatever it is. Right, there it is. Bam. And it's part of the package. You don't have to pay extra for it. That's what the streaming service does. They cover the expenses of these shows so that when you pay for your monthly or yearly or whatever subscription, you've already paid for this. You've already paid for everything that's on the service, but you're probably not going to use it all. But it's still a certain price point, and they still advertise certain things to you, especially based on your prior watching habits or what have you via an algorithm. Now, I want to say that yes, for only 10 million or whatever, maybe 5, we don't know, or maybe they'll get a bigger deal than that, but that is the current understanding of saying this is what we're looking for. That's really not a lot, dude, in some regards, because I can't remember what WWE is getting, but it's a ridiculous amount. AEW is getting like 300 million. And that's ridiculous too, but that's the sort of money that you kind of need. You kind of need a lot more money than you ever really thought you would need. So the goal is to try to get, and if this is like foot in the water or whatever else you want to say, like getting your toes wet, or a trial run, or let's see how it goes, or whatever else. And people do, or companies again do pay up for some of these things, and paid up for AEW. maybe that was their TV deal. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway, whatever it was, same thing. Like, in terms of, this is where we're at. We're just trying to get our toe in the door. We're just trying to get somewhere to show them, hey, no, we can make that money and a heck of a lot more. We are worth the investment. If you invest more in us, we will draw you more money. We are something that can draw money if, we're given the right resources and we're given the right things and given the right opportunities and the right advertising and the right, distribution and all of this sort of stuff. That's where I think we've got to get to, because again, not like pay-per-view is completely dead or whatever, and it's probably never going completely away, because again, there's always going to be, or maybe there will be, but who knows? But still, there will be, it will be a different system, perhaps, but still, they will have to find themselves a not a lot of distribution, because, or I don't know how you would do it, but again, it just comes with the times, doesn't it? You've got to move with the times. You've got to be thinking everyone, well, not everyone, but basically everyone watches everything through streaming. So if you're not on a streaming service, or even if you can't be accessed through a streaming service, you don't have a footprint. And yes, it's great to have your own app and your own streaming service. I think that that's still a useful thing, but to say, oh, well, that's, for most people, unless you're a true TNA wrestling hardcore fan or whatever, or you just want to sign up for 1 month for free, or you got the code for free somehow, it doesn't really, you're not really going to do that for the most part. You're going to sit there and say, oh, well, it's not for me because it's too difficult, or I can't figure it out, or whatever it is. But it's crazy how many people, have no clue how it works. And it's like, it's been this way for 10 years, dude, or whatever it's been. It's been the same thing. They've been on YouTube or whatever it's been, and then you can buy the pay-per-view on their app. That's been that way for a long time. And there are other ways to get it, but, still, it's been pretty much the same. Yes, they had the stint where they actually had it on YouTube, but you could have also got it on their app and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, in saying that, that is what I believe that they're looking at, because they are thinking the same thing as what, this has been the situation for the last, probably 5 to 10 years. I can't remember when the WWE Network kind of launched, but when Netflix launched and when these other streaming services launched, that was the early days of it, sort of thing. And that's probably when they should have been thinking, what, we need to be on a streaming service. So they're a long time behind that in many ways, but in some ways the product, not because it was bad, whatever. There were some bad things, obviously, always. Or some not as good as what they could be, or whatever. But still, not because the product was bad, but just because, seemingly the product was unprofitable. And that's where you've got to, not just for fans, but for market investors, or for advertisers, or for anything, to say, hey, yeah, we'll invest in you because you seem like you're actually worth investing in. You're making, worthwhile things, or making enough worthwhile noise, or enough people are watching what you're doing for us to actually invest some money and whatever else into advertising and into supporting you, so that we can get some money out of that, because it is worth our time. I noticed recently that the A-Game hydration logo is on the ring mat. And I've noticed that a lot of people were talking about how bad that is, that, WWE sold space on their ring mats and whatnot. And though, again, I think TNA, they've got their Zonify ring banners, or whatever you want to call them, and things like that. So I think there's an A-Game hydration one. So again, those sorts of things, like, unfortunately, those things are going to come into it, where you're going to see those little bits of advertising on the rings or on the canvas or on the barricades or whatever else that's there. Because again, they need to sell people something because, hey, that's how they make their money. If their advertisers are getting money, then TNA is getting money because they're like, hey, we got an increase of however many percent because we were advertising on TNA. Because, hey, that, especially for like a sports based hydration drink, that's sort of like where you want to be. Hey, what are we doing? Well, we're doing sport. Well, what kind of sports can we do? Well, we could do baseball, we could do football, we could do MMA, we can do wrestling. These are the sorts of things, basketball, etc. All of those things. So again, what does Anthem have? Anthem has effectively MMA and wrestling. I don't think that they have a softball or a basketball or anything else. I don't know what else they have, but again, I don't think that they have those things. So again, when you have a partner that is saying, oh, well, we want something that, can go on our multiple of our brands or whatever. So, hey, that works. We'll sponsor TNA and we'll sponsor Invictor. Those are the sorts of things. And all of these streaming, or all of these advertisers, it's very easy for them to get their advertising onto streaming services. Much more easy for an advertiser to advertise through a streaming service than for a program, like, to actually stream or to broadcast or to whatever, to have their content on a streaming service, because it's got to fit in with what the streaming service kind of offers or gives something to another niche to that streaming service. Because if you're a murder mystery streaming service, people are going to expect things about murder mysteries and things like that. So you've got to, and the same thing, like with your advertising, what do people expect? You might expect things for movies, like, that are about murder mysteries, things for books that are about murder mysteries. So it's got to focus in on that same thing. So ESPN, what are they about? They're about sports, which, yeah, WWE is an athletic, and so is TNA or whatever. Wrestling is an athletic endeavor. But is it a sport? It's a hybrid between a sport and, entertainment. And I think them being on Netflix is pretty well perfect, because that's, in my opinion, like, it's a mix of a lot of different things, anime and, entertainment. So wrestling kind of fits that. It's very athletic. It's not like just a sport. It is more about the stories that everyone is going through in the entertainment factor. Although the athleticism is certainly, a big thing. Whereas, even though TNA, I would still say they're more into the storytelling aspect than some places, like AEW. I think they're a lot less, but I think that or the entertainment aspect, I think that they are still more or less 50-50. They're still sort of very much a sport, so you could, like, see it being much more of a competition than what WWE is. WWE is way more about entertainment and moments and things like that. Not that TNA is not about moments, or AEW isn't, or anything like that, but the moments that they make, WWE is all about, like, the character moments. That's the most important thing. Everything else is kind of whatever. They don't really care as much, I don't think. Whereas with TNA, they're sort of 50-50. You know, it is more about the character moments, more or less, but they are much more of a, this is about wrestling, this is about talent and athleticism and da-da-da-da-da. Whereas I think like AEW has a small amount of, yes, it is about these characters, but it is much more about wrestling, pure wrestling, or whatever, to wrestle for wrestle's sake. You know, that is their, you know, shtick, and that's fine. You can find what you like. I like a bit of both. So that's where I'm at. I don't want the sports side to be too much, and I don't want the entertainment side to be too much. I kind of want them to be close, neck and neck, you know, sort of thing. I want people to feel like, yes, this is, you know, real, somewhat. You know, this is about this character, but this is also an athletic contest. You know, it's not just, you know, bamboozly characters for no reason or whatever, or just pure wrestling for wrestling's sake. You know, there's no entertainment or there's no anything else. You've got to be a variety show. You've got to have a bit of everything for everyone. So you've got to have the super juniors or whatever you want to call it, the X Division style, that high flying, high octane sort of style. You've got to have your really good pure wrestling kind of thing going on, your technical wrestling. You've got to have your storytelling. You've got to have romance and drama, and you've got to have happiness, sadness. You know, you've got to have, you know, a bit of everything. You've got to have some goofballs and some, you know, much more serious characters, but you have to let those goofballs sometimes be serious when it's needed, and yet sometimes those really serious characters also need to be able to take it lighter or go in a different direction or suddenly turn from being, you know, a serious babyface into being a, you know, nasty heel or whatever else it is because something didn't go their way or they feel like they've, you know, missed out or something. You know, like the best villains, as again, are the villains that think that they're right and you can kind of see what they're talking about, but they've taken it too far type thing. So yeah, but anyway, that is where I'm at with the streaming and with the future of things anyway, because, and I do think the TNA lends itself, and most wrestling lends itself to the more entertainment-based things. Maybe AEW needs to be like on a more sport-based sort of side, and certainly Ring of Honor does, but, you know, that is like there's still that entertainment aspect there. So I think people still can, you know, find that and say, okay, well, this is what I'm more interested in, if that's what you're more interested in. But it does mean that when you're on that, you know, bigger network, that bigger TV, you know, or that bigger streaming service, you get much more eyeballs on you in general. Anyway, you will always get your regular hardcore people that will find you there if they really want to find you there, but you also have your TNA app or whatever else for people to find you, your YouTube, whatever else it is. So there's always other things. It's not always just, well, that's it, we're going to rely on this to be our one source of. No, it takes a multi-pronged approach. If you can try to catch people wherever they are, whenever they are, while you're doing something, and they happen to check you out and then happen to become like obsessed with it and watch it every week and every month and every whatever, you know, that's where you want it. If people are invested in what you're doing and then saying, because this is the next big hurdle, once they get to that big hurdle and get onto that level and people can actually see what, like I've said this so many times, if they can get people to see what they're doing, even if it's like the more mediocre or like, oh, they might have bugged that up or whatever else, they made a small error there or whatever it was, all those things are still good because it's like people are getting to see it. People are getting to see the show. More eyes are getting on the product in general. So yes, those things might happen, but they might as well say, well, we've got to really tighten it up or whatever. We can't allow for mistakes. Maybe on live shows there's a little bit of leeway, but make sure when you cut to something backstage or in the arena, you're getting your time cues and you're getting your cues. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go now. No, you're on now. Go now type thing. Or whatever. So that's where you've got to be. You've got to be knowing, where the camera, especially when it's live, where the camera is, when you're live, when you're not live, what's going on. When you can always do the backstage stuff as taped as well. So, except for maybe on a live show, but you should always think ahead and say, well, this is for later or whatever. So we'll do it earlier in the night, maybe, and then when showtime comes around, again, go to play that, all right, put it up, put it down, go back to ringside, go back to this, or go to that, or whatever. So, but yeah, those things will always help because, again, you will have that, well, we've got to make it as good as possible. We've got to, this week they had with the gauntlet, they actually put the picture-in-picture where they put the first two entrants having a little interview when, they were having their entrance, which was really good because it's the entrance is just their music and the crowd cheering or whatever, or crowd booing or whatever. And maybe you get a little bit of something from the commentary, but it's always good to see those character moments and those character things coming out because, again, that's how you keep, if Zaya Brookside didn't get that promo in there, it's well, yeah, she won one of the gauntlet things, but she lost. Giving her that extra little, well, not literal extra time, but that little extra ability to try to get over as a character will help her because, again, people will go, well, she had a really good promo as well at the same time, and they did a really good job of putting that whole thing together. So those are the sort of, that I said that ages ago, that they should try to put those little promos in the entrances and things like that, because it's not, especially when you're watching it, it's not like the entrances are all that amazing. Yeah, perhaps in the arena it's a bit different, but for the home audience, a lot of the time it is oh yeah, whatever, it's an entrance, unless it's a surprise appearance or a surprise return or something like that, then it's, or whatever, but it's it's an entrance, there's not much to it. And some theme songs are good or whatever, but and that's why the commentary over an entrance is so important, because it's well, I need more, discussion about this match leading into it sometimes to start going, okay, well, this is what this is about. We're going to talk about this 10 times tonight, but, or in this match especially, but you always talk about the same sort of things, sort of. But, recontextualizing it to say, oh, where are we at? Whoever. But those promos often let the character themselves get over a little bit more. But yeah, anyway, I think that was kind of cool to see as well. But yeah, anyway, this is not the show. This is not the episode really for that, but I just thought I'd mention it while I was talking about it, or just thought about it or whatever. But anyway, guys, that is it, I think, for this one. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys will join me again in another one.